when I was in college, and if you watch the History Channel and so forth, they're always kind of poo-pooing the Bible. And there's frequently statements made that, well, you know what? Genesis isn't the only creation account. And in fact, it's probably the result of plagiarism. They probably ripped this creation story off from other cultures, and they just added their own little 2 cents here. Well, have you read any of those other accounts? Most people have not. And so when you hear that on the History Channel, or you get exposed to it in a class in college, most people aren't aware of what those other stories are. If you actually read those stories, and then you read the Genesis story, you become aware of how utterly ludicrous that idea is. All they really have in common is that we were created by God or the gods. Other than that, they're very dissimilar. Okay? So I'm going to read some of these. I'm not going to read all of them because there's too much material. I don't just want to be standing up here reading. But I'll start with the Greek version of creation, or one of the Greek versions. First there was chaos, and then came Gaia, Mother Earth. She gave birth to the sky, Uranus, and they lay together and made many children. Among them were Titan and Cyclops. Uranus hated these 2 children and sent them away. This made Gaia angry and resentful. She asked the 7 sons who had not yet been banished to push Uranus off of her. The youngest, Cronus, led the attack. He castrated his father with a sickle. The blood then that spilled became the Furies. I'm not going to go on. You get the idea. This is just disgusting. But the body parts are being turned into gods, and then various parts of the earth. And these are the kind of stories that we have to contend with. When people say that the Genesis account is similar to other ancient creation stories, that's a nonsense. These early people were actually documenting history as it was made known to them. So Adam would then write down everything that he learned, and then that would get passed on down to his sons and their sons and so forth. So what you end up with is a compilation of books from previous ancestors. And given that everybody lives so long, you get a pretty good idea as to what the history of the world would be. Now, if that were the case, if there was at one time these books in existence, then that would explain how this story got passed down. Or it may have been oral tradition. It may have been passed down orally because, who knows when writing was actually created, because if they were unless you're using clay tablets or steel or something that doesn't go away, we wouldn't know. Okay? But if it was oral tradition, this is what that may have represented. Oral tradition passed down from the patriarchs, and that would have filtered its way into all of these cultures, because we all came from the same people. So then every culture would have some elements of this story, and that would explain why these similarities exist. Does that make sense? Okay. All right. Now, I'm going to cross over to another creation story, the most well-known, or one of the most well-known, probably second to the Bible stories, one of the most well-known stories regarding creation, the Enuma Elish. And the reason it's important is because take a college Bible as literature class, and they'll tell you, aha, the Bible ripped off the Babylonian account. The Babylonian account was 400 years earlier. Therefore, since the Hebrews spent some time in Babylon, they ripped them off. They stole their creation story because they're so similar. Now, I don't really want to read this, but I'm going to have to, so I just want you to understand, if you know anything about the Bible account, you'll realize that they're just not that similar. Let me go. Enuma Elish. All right. Before the heavens were named, and before there was ground to walk on, there was only Apsu, the salty ocean waters, and Tiamat, the fresh waters. Apsu and Tiamat lay together until they mingled into one single body and soul. They gave birth to 6 children. Notice the similarities between the Greek story? Okay, I can see what the Greeks may have gotten something from this. Lamu and Limu, who became the earth. Anshar and Kishar, who became the horizons of earth and sky. Anu, who was the authority of heaven. And E, the earthly waters and all wisdom. As these children grew, they rebelled against their parents. Apsu and Tiamat became angry and tried to take control back. Mumu, what the mist of the clouds, told them the only way to succeed was to kill all their rebellious children. But Tiamat, the mother, could not kill her own children, so E, the earthly waters, killed the father Apsu and captured Mumu. Blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to go in. You get the idea. There's a lot of fighting going on between these guys. And they're doing weird things. Or were they smoking? Thinking of that one. All right. Now, as I mentioned, Genesis is written around 1300 BC, but the Enuma Elish was written 400 years earlier. Okay, so it's way over here in Genesis. So, well, since Genesis was written later, therefore it could not be an original creation account. Because look, I mean, 400 years. I mean, they were obviously Moses was aware of this account, and he ripped them off. All right. Okay. All right. Now, it isn't necessarily the oldest language. However, the Chinese have had language for as long as that, if not longer. Now, we don't have actual Chinese texts where we have entire descriptions and like books in Chinese that are as this old. But we do have writings from this period and before. And now the Chinese, there are two forms of Chinese. There's Greater Seal script and Lesser Seal script. Nobody reads Greater Seal script anymore. Greater Seal script or Lesser Seal script is a shorthand version of Greater Seal script. Greater Seal script was first, though, and we find examples of that in enduring things like oracle bones and bronzeware, and we'll talk about that later. All right. Now, I'm going to get through here a little bit. Originally, the god of China was, as we understand it, was Shen-Ti, or Shaddai, Shendi, Shangdi. These are all different pronunciations of the original creator god of China. Now, he was, again, the supreme god ruling the heavens, and there's lots of stuff to read there. And what would happen was, originally, the family patriarch would offer up sacrifices for the sins of the family. Okay, very similar to what was happening in the Hebrew world, where the patriarch would offer up a goat or a lamb for the sins of the family, and for his clan, he would offer up a sacrifice at least once a year. And then, when they became a dynasty, the emperor would do the same for the entire country. They were called the border sacrifices, and there was a very big ritual involved in making the border sacrifice. And who did he sacrifice to? To T, exactly. Indeed.